If this made you pause, even for a second, then this channel was made for you. We're not here to scream louder than the war. We're here to whisper the peace that still survives. Subscribe to stay grounded in truth, where the gospel meets the world we scroll through every day. Jesus isn't trending, but he's still speaking. Let's make sure someone's still listening. 23 seconds. That's how long it took for the US missile to reach its target in Iran last Thursday night. In those 23 seconds, 17 million people watched a TikTok edit of the blast, complete with dubstep music and a flaming "Justice Served" caption. But no one talked about the nurse who couldn't stop the bleeding in time. No one filmed the child who whispered, "Is this what peace looks like?" If Jesus had a TikTok account today, would he repost the blast, or would he sit in silence beside the child? On June 20th Washington time, major news outlets confirmed the United States had bombed a nuclear facility deep inside Iran. Within minutes, unverified phone videos flooded TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Explosions lighting up the sky, sirens, people screaming in the dark. But the story isn't just about the bomb. It's about how the internet reacted. One side praised a justified strike, the other cried out state terrorism, and in between, millions of Gen Z users, scrolling, reacting, duetting, as if a real war had become just another digital trend. A sound, a flash, a beat drop, a child carried away in blood. Captioned, POV, when Iran tries too hard. Pain turned into punchlines. Trauma rendered into content. And the real gets consumed, like any other meme. We've grown numb to war as a kind of urgent entertainment. But if Jesus were here today, he wouldn't share the video. He'd walk straight into the rubble, where hashtags lose meaning. Because there, he wouldn't see trends, he'd see souls. If Jesus lived in the year 2025, what would he see? He wouldn't show up at a defense press conference. He wouldn't wear a helmet among generals. He wouldn't post a furious tweet or upload a video declaring one side as pure evil. Maybe he'd be kneeling beside a young soldier, trembling after his first airstrike, eyes bloodshot, ears ringing from the blast, haunted by the face of a child lying motionless in the rubble. Jesus wouldn't ask who won. He'd ask, "Can you still feel your heart beating?" Or maybe he'd be sitting with a group of students in a cafe in Germany, where people debate justice and war over espresso and rain tapping on windows. He wouldn't argue. He'd tell a parable about a Samaritan who stopped in the street while all the religious leaders walked past. And on social media, where bombings are edited with soft music and reposted under the caption, "For Justice," Jesus would quietly watch, then put the phone down. Because Jesus doesn't need Wi-Fi to speak. He needs a heart quiet enough to listen. If he lived in 2025, he would see truth sliced into sound bites, pain turned into meme, and suffering commodified for likes. But even then, buried beneath thousands of hate comments, he would still see the tear in someone's eye, and he would step into that moment not to preach, just to hold. Because the world doesn't need another argument. The world needs someone who stays when everything gets ugly. In 2025, Jesus would see what we most desperately hide, and he would love exactly that part. You don't need a gun. You don't need to launch a missile. You don't even have to stand on the battlefield to contribute to violence. Sometimes, all it takes is a like, a careless share, or a comment that says they deserved it. Sin doesn't always start with action. Sometimes, it starts with a bitter heart. The most dangerous war is not the one fought with weapons. It's the one inside our hearts. When we cheer for explosions, when we smirk at the suffering of the other side, when we treat human pain as entertainment, we lose something sacred: compassion. Social media has gamified pain. A death becomes a win. A cruel comment gets labeled just telling the truth. And we forget, the people in those clips are real. They had names, mothers, children, lives, until we reduce them to pixels for our ideologies. Jesus once said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." In 2025, maybe he would say, "Let the one who's never liked a hate-filled video post the first comment." We judge faster than ever because we've put mercy on airplane mode. You can't end global wars, but you can choose how you react. You can be the first one to not like a hateful video, the first one to not leave a savage comment, even when you feel tempted. The first one to see pain instead of a political win. Sin today isn't always murder. Sometimes it's intentional indifference. And Jesus doesn't look at the click. He looks at the reason behind it. Truth never makes it to the trending page. It doesn't get favored by the algorithm. It doesn't come with shock value. It doesn't have a catchy soundtrack, and it rarely gets shared by the millions. Because it doesn't thrill, it convicts. The gospel is the same. When Jesus said, "Love your enemies," no one clapped. No one liked the post. No one tagged a friend. What he got in return was a cross. This world doesn't like truth. It likes my side wins. But Jesus never stood with sides. He stood with souls, even when those souls were wrong. In days when violence spreads like wildfire, when every share becomes a digital bullet fueling rage, Jesus would be at the margins, where there are no cameras, no live streams. He'd be kneeling, tending the wounds of a child. No filter, no hashtag, just mercy. And that's why the gospel doesn't go viral. You can't meme forgiveness. You can't turn "pray for those who hurt you" into a trend. You can't get views from "love someone who doesn't love you back." But that's where the truth lives. Quietly, patiently, and above the algorithm. So if you feel alone because you're not angry with the world, know this: Jesus is standing with you. Truth never trends, but it's the only thing that can save us. Imagine one day, while the entire internet is on fire because of a bombing, a retaliatory strike, or a viral outrage, a live stream appears. No effects, no clickbait captions, no dramatic music. Just a man in a white robe, sitting at an old wooden table lit by soft daylight from a cracked window. He looks directly into the camera. His voice is soft, calm, like a whisper aimed at your soul, not to convince, but to awaken. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. That's it. No long sermon, no side-taking, no reactionary spin. He ends the live stream after 12 seconds. Meanwhile, The rage-filled content goes viral, hours long, shared by the millions. His words, nearly lost, buried under false reports and labeled not aligned with community standards of outrage. Today's world has little room for quiet peace. We crave fury, we crave division, we crave drama. But Jesus didn't come to entertain our emotions. He came to show us something eternal. When you refuse revenge, you're not weak. You're strong in a way this world can't measure. Peace isn't silence in the face of injustice. It's the gentle voice in the storm that reminds you there is another way. And if today you are the only one not sharing hatred, you might be closer to God than you think. Jesus isn't waiting for you to go viral. He doesn't count your retweets or judge your soul by your political takes. He looks for one thing. Do you still have compassion? When the world shouts strike back, he whispers, but who will heal? When social media turns pain into content, he asks, is there still anyone who knows how to pray? He's not asking you to end a war. He's asking you to sit down, open your heart, and choose not to hate. Don't let your empathy be manipulated by the algorithm. Don't let someone else's rage guide your fingers to the share button. Sometimes the most Christ-like response is a silent act of mercy, to weep with the wounded instead of tallying sides. And if you can do that today, you are not weak. You are quietly becoming more like Christ than ever before. Maybe you feel small. When everyone is angry, sharing, shouting, arguing, choosing sides, and you're just silent. You don't know what to say. You're afraid to speak up. You're afraid to be wrong. Or worse, you feel the pain, but feel helpless. Let me tell you this, Jesus was silent too. When he stood before the crowd, he didn't argue. When they mocked him, beat him, crucified him, he didn't retaliate. Yet from that silence, he still forgave. He still loved. And it was that silence that saved the world. You don't have to shout to be right. You don't have to post political stories. You don't have to hit share to prove your goodness. If you are the last one still holding on to gentle silence, if you still cry for someone else's pain, you are not alone. You are standing with Christ, and he will use that silence to do something great. Because with God, even silence is a prayer.